Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, we are finalizing our case study, so I show you what kind of report you should submit, what should be the content, how should the interpretation of the results should look like, and so on. So let's go through how we can interpret our data and results, and how can we provide suggestions for the strategy from financial point of view, at least. Okay, so this is my sample solution, so obviously yours will be different. So it's just one opportunity for many different combinations. That's why it's really good to have this case study, because it has many different outcomes due to different vehicle setups. Okay, so the problem. First of all, it's always necessary to start with a nice mission to make the world a better place by uniting oxygen and hydrogen at orbital speeds, because this will be the mission of the company. And actually the problem is that right now they are doing this, just not at high efficiency, because this French company, which is privately owned, and this is made the main service provider for the European Space Agency and for European governments, and also for many global customers in the satellite business. They have issues. So first of all, we are assuming that we would like to overcome these issues and we would like to earn some money. So that's why our venture capital fund will purchase 77% of the shares, with an objective to implement our strategy during the next 5 years. And after that, we would like to sell the shares and also collect the necessary the dividends. And of course, key problem is that the existing company already lagged behind SpaceX. So SpaceX started to develop their landing skills in 2015. Then they had a finished technology within 2 years later. So in 2017, we were able to see that they started to land in a reliable manner. Obviously, during this procedure, they were breaking rockets all the times during landing, so it was live testing. They were reliable at launch, just not as reliable during landing. But once they were able to solve the problem, then after that, their reliability exploded. So, other problem is, for the existing company, that Ariane 6 is already in a 4-year delay. So, they wanted to launch this in 2020, and we are in 2024 and still nada. Okay, this year they should launch it, because the first rocket hardware already arrived to French Guiana, to Kourou launch site, so hopefully sooner or later we will see something. But still, we are not able to say that this thing is doing anything. Okay, partial reusability means that we can relaunch the first stage within a month or after a month, but we don't have to take it to pieces. It doesn't need any expensive refurbishment like it happened in the case of the space shuttle, that even the engines had to be taken to pieces. No, in this case, we are not talking about complete rebuild between launches. We are talking about cleaning the injectors in the rocket engines, checking due to the lot of sensors which are integrated into the rocket, and after that it can go back to the launch pad. So obviously second stage is expandable. So since it's going up to orbits and orbital speed is way too high to bring it back, and it would be much more complicated. So this will burn up in the atmosphere after releasing cargo, not before, after releasing the cargo. And still we can say that majority of the launch vehicle cost is related to first stage. So this is a fact. And also engines are the most expensive part of the vehicle, and most of the engines are also located in the first stage, so that's why we have to capture them back, because it means that in this case we don't have to manufacture as much engines. Also, we can be more cheaper than other competitors, so we can scale up our revenues and also reduce the manufacturing needs at the same time. So good strategy. Okay, from engineering point of view, we have to solve many things because the rocket must survive. So this is a guided missile, not just upwards, but also downwards, because they have to come back and land on a really, really narrow spot on the Earth's surface. And they have to reignite sometimes or multiple times. And also they have to survive re-entry forces, heat, structural loads. They will go multiple times as the speed of sound. So some engineering challenges, but we are economists, so we don't care about this one. That's why we are paying engineers to solve this. So our engineers will provide us probabilities for success in launch and landing for each business year, and we will be happy with this data. So second issue, product design. So after defining our key problems, then we can answer by, okay, I will use legacy hardware, so I wanted to have the most boring solution as possible. Obviously, you can choose in a different way. And in this case, I will just pick the engine from the Ariane 6, but I will skip the rocket boosters because, come on, I don't want to have 8 million euros strapped on the rocket and then not recover it, so it would create extraordinary costs. No, I will add 2 engines. So if one engine is weak, that's why we need the rocket boosters or the solid boosters. But if we have 2, then it should be enough. Maybe I should also stretch the rocket to have more fuel, but okay, I calculated everything with 2 engines at the same amount of fuel, so I'm an economist, not an engineer. Okay, so we need 3 of these engines, because 2 for the first stage and 1 for the second stage. Also, we can ask the question that how efficiently can we land with 2 engines to throttle this down, and no, that's why we are employing engineers. So they must solve this. So practically you can do this because SpaceX did this during the SN-15 landing after a belly flopping maneuver. So okay, 2 engine landing is possible. But let's go back to our case study. So liquid hydrogen is also not the best fuel because it boils away. You have to keep it nearly to absolute 0 temperature. It's corrosive, it leaks everywhere, but okay, this is the fuel for the Vulcan engine. So again, it's at least not the toxic fuel like or the hyperbolic things which can be stored at room temperature, just you don't want to be near them. So, okay, our unit cost is the cost of the first stage and also second stage with the fuel and also with the fairing, which is on the top, which covers the cargo, the satellites. So 33 million euros can be recovered with the first stage, so the hull and the engines, and the remaining 21 million euro will be expendable. And also we can assume that the first stage will survive 10 launches. They are. So at SpaceX now they reached 20 launches. Okay, and the 20 stage or 20th launch, they use it in expendable mode because they did not want it to deal with that first stage anymore. So yeah, that was a fiery goodbye. And which means that we can reduce engine manufacturing needs. So instead of manufacturing 30, we need just to manufacture 11, which is good. And also we have hazardous life testing, so it means that these cost cuts will be present only in the third business year, as it happened in case of SpaceX. So what we can see here, that our engines has a probability of explosion, okay? Then also the stage has its own learning curve. So probability of gaining revenue, they are already really high at the beginning, at the first year. Because launching stuff is not that complicated, landing is much more. So we can see that a rapid unscheduled disassembly, so when rocket says boom boom, then we can see that, okay, this is going down. So yeah, realizing practically reusable first stage in the first year, second year, yeah, it will be much more like a gambling. So if we can see how many first stages must be built, then this is the appropriate number. So we can see that as things will be more reliable in terms of landing, then we can reduce the number of manufactured first stages, which is nice. Also in these functions, we are assuming that each first stage exists only for at the end of the, or until the end of the business year, because it was much easier to create the function. So we can be much more conservative, just I do not want it to complicate things even more. Okay, our launch price should stay under 60 million euros, and we can do this because our unit cost is 45 million euro. So let's target this 59.65 million euros for each orbital launches, regardless that it's a new vehicle or flight proven hardware. And in this case, our launch numbers in the first year we are just testing, then second year, so third year, fourth year, fifth year. So this is when testing happens for launching, testing happens for landing, and testing ends, and then we will earn a lot of money happily. Okay, third point, profit and loss statement. So we can see that now once we define the unit cost, launch prices and launch numbers, now we can think about money. So revenues must be divided between US dollar and euro, because we got this 18 launches from Amazon to launch their Kuiper satellites, and luckily this will happen once we are starting to scale up our reusability in operations. And also we were really nice people, because we were billing the original launch prices for Amazon, so that's why we can get some extra revenues. And of course, we are absolutely reliable in terms of launching. So we are not doing the same thing what is happening in case of Astra Space, Virgin Orbit, or Firefly. So we are not doing anything like this. They are going upwards. This is where rockets are supposed to go. I don't know what they were expected at this point, but I think that we were waiting that launchpad at least will be not contaminated by exploded rocket parts. Okay, so we are not doing the same thing like Astra. That was my objective here. And for expenditures, have this recoverable and non-expendable vehicle components, and also wages. We don't know who are these 321 people, just we know that we have to pay them, so we are not firing them, we are not cutting salaries like it happened in United Launch Alliance. We are just giving them decent money, and that's all. Inflation. As I told about inflation, so it can happen that in an unlucky stage or market scenario, it can happen only, or it can affect only our expenditures and not our revenues. But since this market is highly oligopolistic, so there is a small number of launch providers, orbital launch providers. So in the US, we can find SpaceX, United Launch Alliance, and Firefly just started to launch things into space. Blue Origin will start to fly only in September. Rocket Lab is absolutely in the small sat business. They would like to scale up and they are developing right now their medium launch vehicle, but right now they are just small sat oriented launchers. And also Japanese JAXA and Indian ISRO is in the global customer or commercial launch business, even if they are state-owned agencies. So they are the traditional launch providers on the market. Okay, so our cost competitiveness will depend completely on the reusability of the first stage. This is our core business strategy here. Okay, and then we have losses only the first business year, and then hopefully we can survive, and high launch numbers can be achieved at the same time while we have reduced manufacturing needs. And we are not paying dividend the first 2 years. So at first, first of all, not being losses, then second, then we have to build up some liquidity cash reserves, and then we will start to give 20% of dividends, and the remaining 80% of the annual tax profit will be reinvested to our cash reserves. So these cash reserves will be increasing to reach 2.7 billion euros at the end of the 5th year, which will contribute to our value. And of course, we are using the following parameters for exchange and for interest rates and for foreign exchange rates. So this data is coming from the Refinitiv Econ database, and otherwise, if it's not, then it's coming from the European Central Bank, or it's coming from the Chicago Merchandise Exchange futures market. But otherwise, it's Refinitiv for both interests on debt, both on savings, or interbank market lending rate, which was useful when we studied SpaceX debt structure. Okay, funding. So we need money. At least in the first year we have such losses, but let's be conservative. So let's grab more money than necessary. So let's focus on this 1 million euros. We can get this 1 million euros by just issuing corporate bonds. But since we are representing a venture capital investment fund, then obviously we will buy 27% of the shares for this nice 1 million euros of investment. And then this equity only funding strategy will actually reduce the weighted average cost of capital by a lot. So that funding would be more expensive. So we can say that it's also that's the cheapest solution by diluting up the number of shares inside the company. And also we are bringing our expertise to make this strategy happen. Okay, foreign exchange risk management. So we are earning a lot of nice US dollars from Amazon, and it means that in the 3rd year, finally in this year, when we will solve the landing of the 2nd stage and we can reduce our manufacturing needs, at the same year, half of our revenues will depend on US dollar-euro exchange rate, and also we know that our profitability will increase in this case if the euro depreciates against the US dollar. However, if we are just checking market trend from the last 5 years, then euro was depreciating against the US dollar. Also, if we are checking futures market data at the Chicago merchandise futures market, then also we can find the same expectations from the market. So it would be not reasonable to say that we should do hedging, but still, since it's significant exposure, let's test it. So what happens if we are buying 2 and 3 year put options in the first year to sell these US dollars for euros? The problem is that we have to pay a lot of euros. So it would be unreasonable to do that. And practically, since we don't have such amount of money, then we are not able to afford this hedging strategy. And also, it will be not recognized by shareholders anyway, because our fundamental value would be lower than by 3%. So we are skipping. We are running no hedge strategy in this case. Sometimes it's unreasonable to do that. Okay, in terms of valuation, so we can see that our capital cost is really low because of completely funding ourselves, or mostly funding ourselves through equity. And also our strategy, if it's implemented efficiently, then practically 60% of all the overall corporate value will come from the cash generating process and not from assets, not from the salvage value. And the problem would be that if we are not able to solve reusability, then the company would be completely, the value at least would dependent on the assets, because we would be always in losses. Only in the third year we would create some kind of positive profit, but otherwise the company would be always near break-even or in negative profitability. So practically our value would be only 4,000 euro per shares, which is 66% lower than the current level. So nope. So we can say that with no debt, with this VC investment, without any hedging and with reusability, we can say that our profitability will be around 12,000 euros. So this is without reusability, this is with reusability. So we can see the added value here absolutely. So 7,861 euros per shares is the added value if we can solve this. And probability of default, we have to solve this because otherwise the company is always really close to going down. So, okay, in real life, the main shareholders are Airbus and Safran. So, and they are full of cash, so they can keep the company afloat. Just there is a slight difference between rapid expansion and profit growing and keeping afloat. So, unfortunately, in real life, this depressing keeping afloat scenario seems to be possible. But since it's a case study solution, we can dream nicely and we can say that, okay, once we implemented this business strategy and once we start to make profit, then our also no profit probability will be reduced under 10%, which is nice. And as a summary, we can see that if we are investing or dividends from year to year into bonds, government bonds, then we can raise 576 million euros only from this. And also we can get an additional 3.1 billion euro if we are able to sell the shares when we are doing the exit. So at the end of the day, we can realize 3.7 billion euros. So we are tripling our investments here. So this would be an appropriate venture capital fund endeavor when we are investing into growth and value added operations. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this journey in the field of commercial space business. and Orbital launch market, and also how can we design products, how can we deal with all the financial and valuation issues, what can be related to this thing. Okay, thank you very much, and bye-bye.